Hello gamers, welcome to a new series on Spam Attack ZGU. I call it Game Wars. We're going to be comparing two video games and hopefully we can make this a long-running series. One other note, not about this series, but I'm canceling my Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. For those of you who can't tell, I haven't posted a video on it in 3 months, and I don't have the recording software to give you good footage. So, until I can get better, I hope you enjoy this series, and maybe sometime later on I will continue my Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Let's get started with this video. Now, many of you may be asking yourselves, so what's Game Wars? Well, what we're going to be doing is taking two video games from anywhere. It could be by Sony, Microsoft, whoever, Nintendo, whatever, any games ever, and compare the two to see which is the better game and eventually what actually is the best game of all time. For the last 18 years, the most commonly known #1 game is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. But is it really? Personally, I've played 11 Zelda games and counting, but I would give, out of the 11, I'd put Ocarina of Time at an 8. Now, I know a lot of you guys just unsubscribed, but that's just me. I'm sorry. So, let's get started with our competitors today. From the NES, we have Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda. Let's go. For today's episode, our first category is history. I'll tell you more about categories later, but we're going to start off by looking at the famous Super Mario Bros. For NES. Its history is very important to gaming. In fact, it's the reason we still have gaming. After the video game crash, this is where Nintendo came back and kept video games, bringing the arcade home with the NES, or if you're in Japan, the Famicom. And, by the way, they're both getting remakes into the Famicom Mini and NES Mini this fall. Yeah, because the NES Mini's already out. Anyway, the console was not super powerful compared to today's standards, but of course it wouldn't be. It was 1985. Now, as for Super Mario Brothers, it took the idea of, rather than having that arcade game where there isn't all that much story, and adding tiny bits of story into it. You had to get from one end of the level to the other end of a level, 4 levels in a world, and each world has this castle where you fight Bowser, who's the enemy of the game, and you're trying to save, well, at the time it was Princess Toadstool, now it's Princess Peach. And at the end of the first 7 castles, you'll meet this annoying Toad, and he says, I'm sorry, but your princess is in another castle. And it's just funny, looking back on it now, it's just like, they've changed Mario so much, but the whole idea of what Mario is, it's the beginning of platforming games, and that is stayed, and it's one of the biggest types of gaming today. Well, behind shooters. Everyone likes shooters. Anyway, now onto The Legend of Zelda. The Legend of Zelda is very different from Mario. Zelda came 1 year after Mario Brothers in 1986 as Miyamoto's second idea for a video game. He decided to make one game linear and one not so linear. That not so linear was The Legend of Zelda. Even from the opening screen, you have 4 ways to go. One to the north and one to each side of you, as well as a cave to the northwest. It's just so open, but I'll talk more about that later. The whole idea of this game is to make video games harder. Video games at the time were easy. Although, to me, Mario Brothers is hard, or at least the original is. But video games back then were just too easy for most gamers. So, they sparked with The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. But we'll talk about that in another video. Now, The Legend of Zelda is also staying strong today, and like I said earlier, holds for the last 18 years what is most commonly known as the best video game of all time. A game that came out 12 years later, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. as far as franchises go, Mario has the bigger franchise to date, but Zelda is still strong. The winner of this category, although it's for the most part close, we have to look at why we have video games. So the winner of this category goes to Super Mario Brothers. Now, for genre, we're going to start with Zelda. Zelda is an action-adventure game. Action-adventure is games that are generally open world and allows you to explore a lot. Games similar to this is, of course, Zelda and Metroid, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, and even Xenoblade Chronicles. Games like this often sell very well, especially on Nintendo's consoles. And these generally go on to have long-running franchises, especially when they're crossed with RPGs like Xenoblade Chronicles is. Although Xenoblade Chronicles is just starting, I'm sure we'll have a video on that one later as well. Now, as for Mario Brothers, Mario is what we call a platformer. Now, platformers can be action-adventure, but it mainly revolves jumping and parkour. Games in this style, well, we'll look at the good ones first. Mario is the biggest, but there are smaller ones, also by Nintendo, that are huge, such as Kirby, the Yoshi series, Donkey Kong, and then there's the reason that platformers aren't so good anymore. One word: Sonic. So, because of that, the fact that action-adventure, for the most part, never really gets a bad game, except the Philips CDI. But we're not talking about those games. We're talking specifically the NES games. But because of their type of games, and the fact that platformers generally don't have that great of a history, because after Sonic they didn't sell as well, I think it's safe to say Zelda wins this round. We're tied up 1-1 and have one round to go. So let's see what happens next. Welcome to our third and final round, Effect. So we're going to be looking at the effect these games have on gaming today. We'll start with Mario Brothers. Mario Brothers is the mascot of gaming. It's the most popular video game franchise of all time, and you don't know video games and not know Mario. He is the reason we have video games in the first place, and it's not just video games mascot, but it's Nintendo's mascot. Now, as for The Legend of Zelda, Zelda is sitting in Mario Brothers' shadows. It's that second spot to Mario Brothers, and it's easily one of the biggest things out there in gaming. Mario Brothers just holds a little bit more. Zelda may have the supposed number one game, but Mario Brothers has the most popular franchise. So in close, Zelda comes out with 1 point, and Mario Brothers comes out with 2. So, the end of this episode is here. But wait, there's more. Thank you guys for watching the first episode of my newest series at Spam Attack ZGU, Game Wars. We're looking forward to making more episodes in the future. So in the comment section below, write what video games you want me to compare in Game Wars, and also write down in the comment section below new ideas for topics for me to cover. So, for instance, like my effect category, new categories, write them down. I want to know what you guys want to see. So, with that said, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And without further ado, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. This has been Spam Attack, logging out of the ZGU. Later.